If I told you that the hardest goodbye you've ever experienced might actually be protecting a future you don't yet understand, would you believe me? Because this story is not just about love. It's about sacrifice. It's about timing. And it's about a moment, 6 years later, that changes everything. So before we begin, take a second, like this video, subscribe to the channel, because stories like this don't just entertain you, they stay with you. Armin never believed in destiny, not because he was arrogant, but because life had never given him a reason to. He grew up in a small, crowded neighborhood where dreams didn't grow, they barely survived. His father worked until his hands trembled. His mother stitched clothes late into the night, her eyes always tired, but her voice always soft. And Armin learned very early that love was not something you chased. It was something you sacrificed. He met Sarah on a rainy afternoon. Not in some dramatic way. No grand music, no slow motion. Just a bus stop, two strangers, and one broken umbrella. She was laughing, struggling to close it as the wind fought back. Armin stood there, watching, unsure whether to help. But something about her laughter. It felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. He stepped forward. "Let me try," he said. She looked at him, a little surprised, a little amused. "Only if you promise not to make it worse," she replied. And just like that, something began. Their love didn't happen overnight. It grew slowly, quietly. Through shared tea at roadside stalls. Through long walks where they talked about everything and nothing. Through dreams whispered under the open sky. Sarah wanted to become a teacher. Armin didn't know what he wanted. But when he looked at her, he felt like maybe that was enough. Years passed. Their bond deepened. 6 years of love, laughter, small fights, silent apologies, and promises of a future they believed they would build together. But reality has a way of knocking when you least expect it. Armin lost his job. At first, he didn't tell Sarah. He smiled like everything was fine. Pretended he was just busy. Avoided her questions with jokes. But slowly, the truth started to show. The late replies. The canceled plans. The exhaustion in his eyes. Until one evening, she couldn't ignore it anymore. "What's going on?" she asked softly. He looked away. "Nothing." She stepped closer. "Don't lie to me." And for the first time, Armin broke. "I lost my job," he admitted. The words felt heavy, like stones falling from his chest. Sarah didn't hesitate. "We'll figure it out," she said. "We?" "Yes, we." But Armin shook his head. "You don't understand." "No, you don't understand," she replied. "I'm not leaving you." And that was exactly what terrified him. Because Armin had seen what struggle does to love. He had seen arguments over money. Resentment growing silently. Dreams fatting into regret. He couldn't let that happen. Not to her. Weeks turned into months. No job. No stability. Just pressure, growing, suffocating. Sarah stood by him. But Armin started pulling away. He became distant, colder, quieter. Until one day, he said the words that would haunt him for years. "I don't love you anymore." Silence. The kind of silence that screams. Sarah stared at him, her eyes searching his face, looking for something, anything that felt real. "You're lying," she whispered. "I'm not." Tears filled her eyes. "Then look at me and say it again." He did. "I don't love you anymore." And just like that, 6 years ended. No explanation. No closure. Just a broken heart. And a goodbye that felt incomplete. Sarah left. But she didn't beg. She didn't fight. Because somewhere deep inside, She understood something Armin didn't realize she knew. Years passed. Armin rebuilt his life. Slowly, painfully. He found work, then stability, then success. But happiness, that never quite returned. Because no matter how far he went, some memories don't stay behind. 6 years later, on an ordinary afternoon, in a crowded market, he saw her, Sarah, standing near a fruit stall. She looked different, not in a way he couldn't recognize, but in a way that time had touched her gently. More mature, more peaceful, and beside her, a child, a little boy, maybe 5 years old, holding her hand, laughing. Armin froze. His heart started racing. Questions flooded his mind. Is that her child? Is she married? Did she move on that easily? Or was it? He couldn't finish the thought, but something inside him demanded answers. He stepped forward, slowly, carefully, as if one wrong move would shatter the moment. Sarah. She turned, and for a second, time stopped. Their eyes met. 6 years. Of silence. Of memories. Of unspoken words. All in one look. Armin, she said softly. No anger. No bitterness. Just calm. They stood there, awkward, unsure. Until the child looked up. Amy, who is he? Amy. The word hit him like a storm. Sarah hesitated, then smiled gently. An old friend. Armin forced a smile. But inside, he was breaking all over again. They talked. Briefly. Carefully. Like two people walking on fragile glass. He learned she was working as a teacher. Just like she always wanted. She asked about him. He told her he was doing well. But neither of them said what truly mattered. Finally, he gathered the courage. And your husband. She paused. Looked at the child. Then back at him. I'm not married. The world shifted. Armin felt something rise in his chest. Hope. Fear. Regret. All at once. Then the child. He asked, his voice barely steady. Sarah looked at him. For a long moment. As if deciding whether to open a door that had been closed for years. Then she said quietly, he's yours. Silence. The kind of silence that changes everything. Armin stepped back. What? I found out after you left. His mind raced. Why didn't you tell me? She smiled, but there was pain in it. You made it very clear. You didn't want a future with me. That's not. She interrupted gently. You said you didn't love me. And suddenly, everything came crashing down. All those nights, he thought he was protecting her. All those sacrifices. All those decisions. They didn't protect anything. They destroyed everything. I did love you, he said, his voice breaking. I still do. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. But you didn't trust me enough to let me stay. And that was the truth he couldn't escape. The child looked between them, confused. Amy. Sarah knelt down. It's okay. Then she stood and looked at Armin one last time. You tried to protect me from struggle, but love isn't about avoiding pain. It's about facing it together. She turned and began to walk away. Armin stood there, watching the life he could have had disappear again. But this time, he understood. Love isn't always about letting go. Sometimes, it's about staying, even when things fall apart. So if there's someone in your life, someone you truly care about, don't push them away. Don't decide for them. Don't assume what's best. Because one day, you might see them again, standing beside a life that could have been yours, and finally understand. Too late. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, because sometimes a story can change the way you live your own.